Hey everyone, and welcome to another episode of Riff Raff. I'm Chris Green, and today we're going to be looking at the track Saviour of a Broken Heart by the band P.R.I.D.E, a band that I had the pleasure of being in back in the late 90s and early 2000s. Now what you just heard was the opening to the track, which starts with a huge arpeggio bass solo, so let's go straight in and break that down. One thing I also want to mention about this track, all of the P.R.I.D.E stuff was actually played in E-flat tuning. So everything was tuned down a half step. But for the purpose of today, I'm going to play in a standard tuning. Most of you probably have standard tune guitars. So if you want to play along with the record, play along with me in concert pitch today in standard tuning. Tune it down a half step if you want to try and play it along to the P.R.I.D.E record, okay? So here we go. Now the first notes basically start. We slide straight in around an A major arpeggio shape. So we slide into fret 12 on the E string, and we're going to give 2 hits. Now, if you can get a pinched harmonic on that second note, that's what I did on the record. I rarely got it live after that, but every now and again it happens. If you can get your pinchies, get them in there. So after we hit that fret 12, we're going to come down with a little reverse slide. So most of you are used to like sliding up, but these little reverse slides are a nice way of like just spicing up a note. And after fret 9, we're going to be picking up 10 and 12 on the E string. So that opening phrase. Then we're going to do a semitone bend on 9. And then pick up 10 on the B string. Then we do a bend on 12 on the B string. Now you're going to notice on that bend that I'm bending it, dropping it slightly, like almost like a little blues curl, and then re-bending it again. That's intentional. It's supposed to sound a little outside the box. So after that bend, you're going to hammer on and pull off from 10 to 12 on the E string, come down to 11 on the G, and then 10 on the B. So now we have. And you repeat that little palm muted, do that twice. Now we've got a little sweep section here. We're going to be coming up a D major arpeggio. So middle finger's on fret 11 on the G. First finger is going to be barring on 10 on the B and the E. But what you're going to be doing here is make sure you roll your finger. You don't want to hear a double stop. Double stops when you hear both notes at the same time. What you want to be hearing is one note at a time. So you roll the finger. If you watch what I'm doing there with my finger, I'm rolling the finger to make sure that only one note is heard at a time. So one sweep motion here, all downstroke. If you watch my right hand here. And at the top of that, we're going to be picking up 12 on the E and then 14 on the E. So we do sweep 12, sweep 14. Then we're going to hit a D major arpeggio, picking up a Lydian note there. So 14 on the G, 15 on the B, 14 on the E, and then we're going to pick up the Lydian note, which is 16 on the E. And then we pick up 17 straight after that. So the whole of that sweep section. Then we're into a real box standard kind of happy-go-lucky cock rock lick here. You've probably heard this 100 times. We're basing that around an E major arpeggio, but what it's actually creating is a major 9 sound of A major. So, you know, this E major over A creates an A major 9 sound, because here's our major 7 and here's our 9. Creates a nice different sound rather than just going straight for the root arpeggio. Okay, so 17 on the E, pull off to 16, and then pick up 17 on the B. Then do the same but use 19 on the E, 19 pulling off to 16. and then do the 17 one again. Then you're going to pick up a tiny little lick there. So 16, 17, 19, 16, 17. And then you repeat the 17 pull off and the 19 pull off part of that arpeggio. Then we're going to go for an A major arpeggio, which is 21 pulling off the 17 on the E, and then 17 on the B. Then we're going to go up to the next A major position, pulling off 22 to 21, that's middle finger and first finger, and then picking up 22 on the B. It's getting pretty slim in there. There's not a lot of room in here. So 22 pulling off to 21, picking up 22 on the B, and then 24. If you haven't got 24 frets, I don't know what to tell you. I suppose you could bend it. So if you're playing, 22 fret guitar, that's all I got for you, man. Okay, so let's get the beginning of the solo up to that point. And then we've got a last little lick here, just kind of coming down an A major arpeggio using some string skipping. Okay, so what we're doing there is bending the major third, which is on fret 21, bending it to 22. And then the second time, you bend and release. So bend, and then bend and release. Then you're going to play 17 on the E. Then we skip to the G, and we're going to play 21, 19, 18. Pick up 19 on the D, and then we're going to hit our octave, which is 17 on the E. So the whole of that little last lick. And if you can pick up any pinched harmonics along the way, do it. Okay, so that's the whole of the intro. Let's now move into the rest of the track. So the verse section is basically A major, D major. It doesn't really deviate from that, and we're using suspended second chords. So our standard A sus2 chord down here is fret 2 with your middle finger on the D string, fret 3 on the G with our third finger. And you're just going to pick straight down those strings, A, D, G, and then an upstroke on the E and the B string. Now it's worth mentioning that when I play live, rather than clicking to a clean channel, I much prefer using the distorted sound with the volume rolled down and changing generally to my middle pickup. I've got a three-way toggle switch here, and that produces me having all of my pickups playing at the same time. Gives a much more chimey effect. So if my full volume sound on stage is this, that's really how I like playing my clean sounds. So that's where we're at right now. Middle pickup, volume rolled down, A sus2. Then we're going to go D sus2, which is fret 2 on the G, fret 3 on the B string, and we're going to pick D, G, B, and then an upstroke on the two thin strings. And then repeat. Second time round, actually, we're going to strum. Just strum that D sus2 power chord, and then we'll do this little picking pattern, which is basically D, B, G, and then D, E, B. So the whole of that little strumming pattern is going. Now we're into the real AOR picking kind of pattern here. Now this is basically just playing, it's messing around with a 9 and a major 7, Remember we talked earlier about what an E major arpeggio sounds like over A. It's the same kind of thing we're doing here. So what we're doing there is we're playing an open A string, and I've got it dialed down just so you can hear the notes what I'm doing right now. Now your first finger's waiting here on fret 1 on the G, so it's easy transition. So what we're doing there is we're playing open A string, 2 on the D, 2 on the G, and then we're pedaling off of the D string. Makes for a nice little melodic ditty. Okay, then we move to D, basically. The same thing, we're just kind of creating this 9 sound here. So we're first finger fret 2 on the G, it's going fret 2, fret 1, fret 2, little finger plays fret 4, and then we're going to reach out for fret 5 on the B string. You'll notice I tend to hit upstrokes on those notes to make them pop out, the one on the B string, you know. So the whole of that riff. Okay, and then we are into the pre-chorus, which is basically just kind of 3 chords with a nice little picking pattern at the end. Now we're going to do a G chord, what I call big G, and basically if you play your G chord like this, which is really how you should play your G chord, with your 2 fingers here on fret 3 on the B string, fret 3 on the E string, middle finger playing fret 3 on the thick string, first finger's going to do nothing. Your middle finger is going to relax and dampen the A string so that you don't hear it. What that means is we're creating a stacked 5th chord. We're going to have G, D, G, D, G, stacked. So it's just all a 5th chord. There. Okay, so 3 hits on the G and 2 hits on a D power chord. It's basically the same as D major. Middle finger comes off, 3rd finger relaxes so that your thin string can't be heard. Thumb sitting on top of the thick string so that you can't hear any of that, and we're going to leave the open A string in there to create the sound of a power chord with a 5th on the bottom. So we've got 3 hits on the G, 2 hits on the D. Then we go to an A power chord. So your A power chord is just borrowing your first finger, fret 2 on the D, fret 2 on the G. Try and dampen the B and the E underneath that so that all you're hearing are root 5th and octave. So second time round, we only hit the D once and the A power chord once. Then we do a little riff with a parallel 5th A chord up here. So fret 7 on the D with your first finger, fret 9 on the G with your ring finger, and fret 10 on the B with your little finger, and you're trying to relax the little finger so that you can't hear the thin string, so it's kind of being muted under there. Thumb sits on top so you don't hear the open thick string, and we're going to play between muting the open A string and this parallel 5th chord. And that comes at the end of that second time round. Then we do the same first time round again. Nice little kind of passing chord section here. We're going to play fret 1 on the A string, that's a B flat. Then we play the octave of that, which is 3 on the G, fret 2 on the B. Just move all of that up 1 fret. 3rd finger stays where it is because we're about to play a D. First finger comes down, fret 2 on the G. Then our middle finger just comes and rests on fret 3 on the thick string. That creates a G add 9. So that little section there. Okay, so the whole of the pre-chorus. And then going into the chorus, we just have a quick 2 hits on an E power chord. Just fret 2 on the A string, open thick string, only hit those 2 strings. And then we are into the chorus, which is kind of based around the first part of the verse riff, but we're kind of just playing off of a muted open A string instead. Okay, so breaking that down, basically we're just playing our A power chord that we went through earlier. Little finger comes up to play fret 4 on the G, and we're just going to do this little kind of movement of 4, 2, 1, 2. Now we do have to shift our fingers around. So it's going to be power chord shaped like this, 4, 2, change fingers, so your first finger's on 1 on the G now. That's our major 7 chord, what we're playing there, and then third finger goes back on 2. And then when we go to D, we use a nice little movement, kind of getting a little more adventurous up the fretboard just to create a little more melody. Okay, so fret 2 on the G, fret 5 on the B. Then move that same shape all the way up so you're on 7 and 10. Then drop that 10 down to 9 using your third finger. That's creating that Lydian sound again. Back down to the chord down here, 2 and 5. Then we're going to do something we wouldn't usually do here. We're going to actually play like a major third in a distorted power chord. Now you can hear it clashes. That's why people don't really put major thirds in their power chords. There's only a few voicings that really work like that. But it seems to work in this one. We're only there for a second, so who cares, right? Nice little movement there. So the whole of that chorus. And then the second time round, you're just kind of like playing off of this D chord here, this kind of D9 power chord. And then repeat. After that, well, we've done the intro solo, done the verse, done the pre-chorus, done the chorus. That all repeats, and then we come around and we do a little middle 8 section, which is really simple. It's just E power chord to D power chord. And there was 2 guitarists in the band, so I was playing the higher voicing while the other guitar player was playing the lower voicing. So let's go through the one that I was doing. You can see it's simple. I'm just going through an E power chord, which is 7, 9, 9, A, D, and G. I am playing off the open thick string because it adds a little more depth when you're hitting the E chord. When I come down to the D power chord, which is 5, 7, 7, I'm not having any of that thick string because you wouldn't want to put an E underneath the D power chord. And you're just doing that round like 4 times. Then we're into the solo. All right, sorry about that. I had to have a blast on my oxygen mask before I try and tackle this one. Okay, so the opening lick of this main solo. It's a little bit of a handful, and there's not a lot of room up here, especially if you play a PRS like me. Those frets get pretty small, pretty quick. So really what we're doing here is we're just playing around with an A major power chord, but we're string skipping instead. Now, the reason we do string skipping is because it tends to add more separation in the sound of the arpeggio. The arpeggio is this. But if we swap the note here on the B string on 17 and replace it on the G here, we skip the B string entirely and it sounds more separated. Rather than if we were trying to sweep down. That's why I choose to do string skipping anyway. So let's get into this lick here, okay? First of all, we're going to do a pull off from 21 to 17. We're going to do that twice. Skip over to the G and we're going to play 21, 18. Pick up 19 on the D. So then we skip all the way back with our first finger and pick up that root note, 17 on the E, and come back down the notes in that arpeggio. So now we have then we're going to repeat the pull off here, 21, 18 on the D, and we're going to come down the rest of the full arpeggio here. And that's basically 21, 18 as we've already played. Then we're going to play 19, 19, 17. Now what we have to do with this third finger here, we have to make sure we do that roll that we were talking about earlier on so that we don't create any double stops. So now we have this. Still with me? Okay, cool. Now we have to go back up the arpeggio. Now, we only play this root note here once on the thick string, but I will go from that note. Just going back up those same notes we've already played. 17, 19, 19, 18, 21. We're going to repeat those last three notes. Then pick up 17, skip again. So, come back down again over that skip and pick up this little arpeggio section here. So from the thick string, this is where we're at. Then we're going to play 17, 21, pull off. Bend a semitone on 21. Pick 21 again, 17 on the E. And then we're going to play our root note D, because we've just changed to that chord, which is 15 on the B. So the whole of that second section there. That's what the whole of that first lick is. Okay, so now we're into this little D arpeggio section, and what we're doing really is just playing this Lydian scale that we're playing here. So let's break that down. That's going to be 17 on the A string, 17, 19, 21. Then we're going to bar here and play 19 on the D and the G. Then we're going to play that 17, 19, 21 on the B as well. And then we're going to play the top part of a D major arpeggio, which is going to be 17, 22, hammer on pull off. 19 on the B. Then we're going to play 16, 17 on the E. And end on 17 there on the B string. So. Now we've got this little pedal tone section. So really it's a pedal tone section with an arpeggio, and then we use this octaves thing. Really, really nice technique that I like putting in some of my solos every now and again. So let's get into that. Our pedal tone note here is going to be fret 17 on the B string. And then we're going to hit 24 on the thin string. So 2 hits on the B, 2 hits again, and then 22. And then we're going to go 21, but we only do 1 hit on the B string in between that. And then we're going to do a little slide with our little finger from 17 to 19. So we're kind of using that A major arpeggio again. Slide 19 to 21 on the E string, pull off to 17, and then play 17 on the B string. Then we come back to 17, our root note on the E string again. Then we're going to use that E major arpeggio over A again to make that A major 9 sort of sound. So that's 19, 17, 16 pull off, 17 on the B string, 16 on the G, and then we play the octave, which is 19 on the E. Now once we've got that octave, we keep this shape together because we're going to shift this octave up. So that's 16, 19 on the E, back to the 16 on the G, then we slide up 2 frets. Play our octave again, come back, go up 1 fret. Come back, go up 2 frets. Then we're going to play 2 hits on the 22 for good measure right at the end there. So let's go from the beginning of that D section so we know where we are. And what we're doing in the end there, we're going to play a D major arpeggio sweep, which is 19, 19 on the G and the B, pick up 17 on the E. Remember to roll the finger so that we don't end up getting any double stops. And then 22 on the E string. And after we hit that, we're going to go up to 24. Now we're into a little kind of B section of the solo. As I said before, with P.R.I.D.E, he always used to have these great sections where he'd change things up, change the mood. Going to a minor chord usually does a really good job of changing the mood. So we go to B minor at this point, and we're going to be basing the next part of this solo around a B minor pentatonic, more like B Aeolian, but you know, there's really kind of B minor blues licks within. So let's get into this section. Let's break that down there. We're doing a reverse slide into 6. That's picking up on 9 note. So 6 and then 7. First finger shifts over to 9 on the D string, couple of palm mutes, and then hit 10 on the B string. Then we're going to do a little pentatonic lick here, hammer on pull off from 7 to 10 and back again on the B. And then 9, 7 on the G, and then bend that 9 on the G. And I'm doing that little semitone release and then back up again, just make it sound a little more blue, you know? Okay, then we pick up another one of these Aeolian notes here. We're going to do a 7, 8 pull off, which is our 5 to sharp 5. And then pick up 9, 7 on the G again. Then we're going to slide 9 to 11, pick up 10, 10 on the B and E, 12 on the E, and then bend. Actually, when we get to the top there, we play 12, pull off to 10, and then we bend the 12. Now at this point, we do something that crops up a lot in my solos. I kind of got it from the Eagles, actually. If you listen to Hotel California, you'll see a lot of this. You bend the note, but then you play another note while the note is bent. So what I'm doing here is I'm bending 12, picking up 13 with my little finger while it's bent. Then you pull off, come down, pull off from the 12 to the 10 again. It's a really, really cool way of getting, I don't know, just a little bit of pizzazz back in your bends. Then we're going to do a pull off, which is going to be 14 to 10 on the B string, straight up to 17, 14 pull off on the B, and then a 17, 12 pull off on the E, and then end on that root note, which is 17 on the E. almost there. Okay, now what we do is we've got a couple of arpeggios here. Basically a little D sweep arpeggio and a little E sweep arpeggio, and then a couple of big bends. So a D arpeggio we did earlier, which is 1919 on the G and B, pick up 17 on the E, and then play 22 on the E. Then do the same thing up 2 frets, which is an E arpeggio. Then we come back down to 22 and we're going to bend up to 24. So that means that because we're hitting the A power chord again, we're basically just bending up to the 5th of A. Okay, that's the whole solo. Let's see if we can make it through the whole of that solo. Hey, that's close enough for jazz, right? Well, after that, it's just choruses out. We had a fade out. Remember those days when you could do fade outs? Just sit there watching the producer, slowly coming back while you're going around 20 choruses. That's Savior of a Broken Heart by P.R.I.D.E. I'm Chris Green. This has been Riff Raff. Remember to subscribe to the channel. Make sure you click that bell so you get those notifications. And I'll see you in the next episode. Thanks, everyone. I'll see you all soon.